Hey, I'm Melanie Johnson along with my co-host Jen Foster. We are both 13-time best-selling authors. We've published over 2,500 books and made all of our authors #1 bestsellers. We own Elite Online Publishing. If you want to become a best-selling author, look us up at eliteonlinepublishing.com. Now, welcome to the podcast that shares secrets from top industry experts that show you how to get lasting success and results. This is the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hey there, it's Melanie Johnson again from Elite Online Publishing, along with my incredible business partner who lives in Salt Lake, Jen Foster. Hey, Jen, how are you doing?
Doing great. It's a wonderful sunny day today.
It is. The weather's rainy here in Houston, all this hurricane stuff, different stuff coming in and out. But, we don't care what the weather is like because we have fabulous content for you here today. We are going to rock your day. We're going to talk about how to get on podcast, how to make more money, how to leverage media, how to get strategic partners. I have an awesome guest, Patty Farmer, here today. Just love her. She's going to blow it out of the park. Sorry, I'm giving you all this blow up, Patty, so you got to live up to all this expectation. But you're going to learn a lot from her. She's fun. She's exciting. She has tons of experience. She's been on covers of magazines, has her own magazine. And if you want to figure out how to make your message more meaningful, how to get on podcast, leverage your content, you're in the right place today. Patty, thanks for coming.
So excited to be here, and the weather's nice in Dallas today too, so I didn't even know we were both in Texas.
I don't think I knew that either. That's hysterical.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Well, tell us, Patty, how did you get into this and making marketing and media your #1? How did you get started in this?
Well, about 20 years ago, I've been doing this for over 20 years, but about 20 years ago, I owned a mortgage company, and when I owned a mortgage company, obviously marketing was very, very important. And I am from Las Vegas. We moved to Dallas in 2008, and we all know what happened in 2008 in the mortgage industry, right? Mm-hmm. So at that time, I moved to a town that I didn't know anybody. And that was very, very important for me because when I got here, I had to decide, was I going to try to open up a mortgage company? And I thought, no, I have always really just loved, the marketing part. And so I decided that's what I was going to do. And I went on my refrigerator the first day I got here when it was literally snowing. I couldn't believe it. It was snowing in Dallas. And I wrote 100,000 on my refrigerator. And my husband came home and he said, "What is that?" And I said, "We're living in a town that I don't know anybody. And I could either whine about that or I could put my big girl panties on." And I made a decision today that in 1 year, I'm going to know 100,000 entrepreneurs and I'm going to make $100,000 doing it. I did it in 9 months. And that was the biggest game changer in my business. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Hey, I love that it was like having a vision board, right? You put the vision out there, you wrote it down, you put it in your nervous system, and then just went after the actions to do it every day. What advice would you give someone if they want to get to 100,000 people and 100,000 connections?
I would say the most important thing is to be intentional, because I think that the thing that I learned from that, it isn't just enough to have calls, because I think that right now a lot of people, we're on Zoom, we're networking, but to really be intentional and to create a criteria, right? Really to create a criteria of why are you getting on that call? And, I know that old school networking really says the magic all happens, when you meet people for coffee. But what I'm going to say is, how many times have you met somebody for coffee, virtual or in person, and walked out of that meeting going, "Oh my gosh, this is 90 minutes of my life. I'll never get back," right? Yeah. So really being intentional and setting goals and objectives for what you want to accomplish is probably one of the most important things when really introducing people and really making those connections for you and for them, because it's really about making powerful introductions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you say intention, because, a lot of times you will set up that coffee meeting and a little bit about the person, and you get there and you have coffee and they talk and you talk, and then you leave and you wonder, what was that even for? Because you didn't have that goal, you didn't have the objective, and you didn't have any intention. So except for coffee, you're just thinking coffee. So that's what ended up happening. You had coffee,
Exactly. And actually for me is, I actually have this little 4-question process that I do whenever I meet anybody. And I feel like once I have the answers to those 4 questions, like I already know what the next step is. And I can literally get those answers in 5 minutes. And it doesn't matter whether I'm meeting somebody virtually, in a group, or in person. Those 4 questions are the most important thing to me, and it'll tell me everything I need to do. And of course, I'm more happy to share the questions if you want.
Yeah, I was like you primed us right up there. You've teed us up. You got to tell us the questions now.
Okay, cool. And I always like to say, what shouldn't you do, right? You know, I don't like to should, but I always like to say, please never ask this again. So the old question of what do you do? Mm-hmm. Never, like, stop saying that, right? So here's the first question. So the first question to replace that with is, who do you serve? And the main reason you really want to ask this is when people say, what do you do? It's all about you, right? So then people start talking and they keep on talking and then they go into sales, right? But if you say, who do you serve? It's not even about them anymore. Now it's about the people they serve. So it's much more intentional. And not only that, but you should be listening when they're saying that, because maybe you serve some of them too. And that's a whole nother opportunity, right? So first question. And also, it also helps you that if you don't know any of those people or you don't serve any of them, maybe somebody in your network does, and this is an opportunity for you to serve your network. So it's a win all the way around. So that's the first thing. Second thing I asked, and it's kind of in a question form that goes something like this. So Jen, I know lots of people. If I was going to tell them about you, what would you want me to tell them?
I love that.
And the reason for that is because now you're not going to tell me all this fluff. Oh, I have this and that. You know, you're actually going to tell me what I want to know, which is what's the value you bring to the marketplace, right? If I'm sitting there telling people, I know a lot of people and I want to tell them about you. What do you want me to tell them? Now you're going to like hone right in and tell me what is the value you bring to the marketplace. So in essence, now I know who you serve and I know the value you bring to the marketplace. So the third question I always like to ask is, what makes you different than everybody else that does what you do? What's your differentiator, right? And so I think we all have one, and I think it is really important. And I always like to say, before you go out and start asking these questions, make sure you know the answers too, because believe me, they're going to come back to you and nobody else asked them that. And they're going to be like, oh, you go first. So make sure you know the answers to those questions, right? So once I ask those three questions, I have the last question, which basically, and I actually do it visually too. So if I'm in person, this is how I do it, but you can do it virtually too. So this is kind of like where we're really like maybe exchanging business cards, because I'm wrapping up now. So for me, this is like my signature tip, I always like to say. So if nobody else gets anything else from this, this will save you so much time. So think of your business card and think about where you do your business, right? So for me, on my business card, the top right corner is LinkedIn, the bottom is Instagram, the bottom left is Twitter, and then the top one is Pinterest. So that's just my legend. It doesn't have to be your legend, but that's my legend. And I know that. So when I say to somebody my fourth question, which is, so what's your favorite social media platform? Where do you like to hang out? And they say, oh, I like to hang out on LinkedIn. So if you're spending all your time on Facebook and they're on LinkedIn, where do you think you should be connecting with them? Right? So think about it. If you go home from an event and you have this whole stack of business cards and the only thing you have to do is look at the corner of the business card and say, oh, I just need to connect with these people here, these people. You don't need to go home and connect with them on every single social media platform. You only need to connect with them where they just told you they hang out. So in 5 minutes, I know where should I connect with them, the value they bring to the marketplace, who they serve, and what makes them different. And that tells me whether or not I need to have coffee and what kind of conversation we can have when we do. And I feel like for me, that 5 minutes, I know just what to do, what action to take, and now we can move on. And not only that, but I'm able to serve them. And then the bonus to that, as long as I've gone that far, I have a 100% success rate of people showing up. I've never had anybody not show, and here's why. So, I mean, as long as I was going to do that, I might as well tell you how to follow up too, right?
For sure.
So here's what I do. I send an email and I say, oh, you know, so Jen, I know we're going to meet for coffee on Friday, right? I just want to confirm that. And what I would love for you to do is when you respond to this, would you please tell me who is an ideal client for you and who are great power partners for you? And here is the punchline. And then I say, the reason I'm asking that is so this way I have a chance to go through my database. And if I have any of them, I'll bring them with me when we have coffee. So now for them, have you ever gone and met somebody and they said, oh, I'm going to introduce you to this person. I know this person and I know that person. A week goes by and they haven't done it. And now you get this really icky feeling and you're thinking, I really want to write to them and say, hey, you know that introduction you said you'd make or whatever? This takes all that away because now you're saying, oh, if I have any of those, I'll bring them with me. So of course they're going to show up.
Yeah.
Right. So it just kind of makes it a nice, easy process. So that's my 5-minute really connecting process, my follow-up process. And so once I'm on a call with somebody, or if that goes there, like I already know exactly what to do to make it be more intentional.
I love that. And I love that you asked for them to reply to the email, because not only are they saying, yes, I'll be there, but they're saying, oh yeah, here's my ideal client. Here's, you know, who I look for. And then that's easy for you because you know for sure now they're going to come, they're going to show up.
And not only that, but this isn't the reason I do it, but it is also kind of a screening process, because when they write back to you and you ask them that, it says something about somebody who does or does not say, oh, Patty, could you let me know who an ideal client is for you and who a good power partner is for you so I can bring them too? Like if they don't ever ask that question, it's like they really kind of really all about them, right? Because really the reciprocity should say, oh, that's really a great question. Would you do the same for me too? Right?
It's all about that communication, the back and forth. Gotta have that.
Gotta be intentional.
So once you get them in there, and let's kind of shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about messaging and how, like, okay, you've got your business going and you want to get yourself out there and market your message on podcasts and speaking and different things. How do you start with someone who's at ground zero and wants to do that?
So somebody's at ground zero. So I personally don't work with startups and new people myself, but doesn't mean I can't tell people what kind of things they should do. So the first thing they want to do is really get out there and be connecting with people who serve the same audience as them. Because the best collaboration partner you're ever going to find is somebody who serves the same audience as you, which really leads into everything else in media too, because really what magazines do they read? What books do they read? What podcasts do they listen to? You know, when it kind of cracks me up when I go to networking things and I'm kind of listening for other people and how much time they talk about things and don't ask questions that matter. Like, oh, so do you like listening to podcasts? What are some of your favorite podcasts you like listening to, right? What other networking events do you go to? Like, really, these are opportunities for you to do what I like to call, you know, really mining for data, because data is everything, right? Is really getting to know that data. So I think you know, ask better questions, you'll get better answers. So once you know who that is, you really should be looking for podcasts that also, right, that also, you know, serve that market too. And I have to tell you, when people ask me, so Patty, how can I, you know, serve and support you? I can't tell you how many times I ask that to people and they don't have an answer. I can't believe it. Like, I'm asking you how I can serve and support you and they have no answer. Well, I don't know, Patty, right now. And I always like to say the easiest answer is to say, who do you know that has a podcast, right? I mean, it's just like the easiest answer to say, because if they serve the same audience as you, any people they know or any podcast they listen to are probably going to be good ones for you too. Right. And if they say, oh yeah, I know somebody who has this, say, oh, is it okay? Will you do an introduction for me? I mean, it's just like the next logical step when you're starting from the beginning. But if you have an established business, however, it's even more powerful because now you can tap into your own network. And I always like to say it's always good to keep on getting introductions and keep building your network out. But I will tell you that I truly believe and help my clients that you will literally easy get to multiple six figures with the people you already know. I mean, it's always great to kind of bring in people that fill in kind of gaps where, you know, maybe you're lacking or where there's good collaborative partners. Like I love collaborating with, you know, with copywriters, because even though I have a magazine, writing content is not my favorite thing. Like it's something I have to work at. Talking, however, is easy for me, right? And so so I always, whenever I'm going to do any type of project, very first thing for me is, oh, who is a copywriter that I can bring in that's going to handle that piece, right? You know, so anything that you're not really good at or you don't like to do, those are great collaborative opportunities. So I think it's really important to know what your strengths are and where your, I don't want to say weaknesses, but maybe not your top strengths, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So tell us a little bit about the money. So you said media, marketing, and money. So tell us a little bit about the money.
So here's what I believe. I believe that anytime I'm away from my family, it needs to be making me money. Although, as a preface to saying that about the money, I will say that for me, everything is a visual. You'll find that out about me. So I always like to think of everything like a table. I actually have this really great visual of this beautiful, beautiful table and 4 chairs that's on a beach, because I love the beach. And here's how I think about it, and this does answer your question. Every time an opportunity comes to the table, got that? Every time the opportunity comes to the table, it has to fit into one of those 4 chairs. So one of those chairs for me is speaking, and another one of those chairs is like a product or service, and one of them is a media opportunity. But the 4th chair is really the one that doesn't make me money, but those are things that feed my soul, right? You know, they just make me happy. I want to do them because they feed my soul, they help somebody, you know, and I just want to do it. So not everything has to make you money. So I wanted to make sure I make that point. However, the other 3 chairs do need to. So you always have to be thinking about, how can I monetize things? And the reality is that you really create revenue in 2 ways. One, cash, right? People actually pay you, right? And the other is in opportunities. And I always like to say the perfect op is other people's people, right? Other people's people. And that is really where you can do it in opportunities, right? Being on the right podcast in front of the right people, writing for the correct magazines where you have right fit people, right? Speaking on virtual or in-person stages. So it's really important that they're the right fit. Like, you really should be intentional about that as well, not just be on a podcast to be on a podcast. Although I do understand that in the beginning, when you're new, like what you said a few minutes ago, just getting out there and having people be aware of you is important. But I always like to tell my client, I understand that people are going to tell you it's great exposure, but you don't pay your mortgage with exposure. You pay your mortgage with money. So, right? So it's really all about, how can we make money? And I say that the number 1 way is to be so good at what you do, but more importantly, well, not more importantly, but also to be so good at promoting others that it promotes you and makes people love you. So for example, when I'm on a podcast, I don't just get on a podcast, and when I'm done getting on that podcast, I go and, just put it on social media. Oh, it was so great to be on that podcast. There's a couple other things that I do that other people don't do, and people say to me, wow. So one of them is, once I'm on a podcast, not only do I leave them a 5-star rating and leave them a review, but I also go to LinkedIn and leave them a 5-star recommendation. And if they have a Facebook page, I go and leave them a 5-star review that they get. And they're, so that kind of elevates me. And they're like, wow, Patty left us this recommendation on LinkedIn, and she left us this review. And then here's the other thing. And this works whether you're in a magazine, whether you're in a collaborative book, anything you do with anybody else. We know you want to promote yourselves, right? We know it. But here's how it's going to monetize for you as well, is that I'll use the podcast for an example. Once I promote that I'm on this podcast, right? And I promote it across all my platforms. And here's where you now have to be a little bit more intentional. Right? The intentional is the word for the day for sure. So one of the things I like to do is, so say when you go to somebody's page where they have all their episodes, whether it's on their website, whatever they like to do, and your episode, say 55, right? So your episode 55. I set in my calendar, and obviously I have a team of people. So I set this in my calendar that like a month later, when everybody else is done promoting, right? I go back there and I say, oh, who was episode 52, 53, and 54? And who is episode 56, 57, and 58? And if it's appropriate, and you did your work, so you are on a podcast that has to do with what you do, right? I promote those episodes and those people. And the reason I do it is because that gives me 6 other people to promote and tag. And they're like, wow, this person I don't even know promoted me. But also, here's the thing. When people go to the page to see those episodes, where are you? Right in the middle. There's no way they're going to go see 53, 54, or 55 without seeing your episode too. So all roads lead back to the same episode page. I say the same thing in my magazine. Every issue of my magazine has 15 authors in it, right? And I tell them, how many times can you say, read my article, but promote the other 14 people, because when people go and read their article, you're in the same magazine. All roads lead back to the magazine. Same thing with the book. If you're in a collaboration book, talk about the other people who are in the book too and promote them. All roads lead back to the same book. So a lot of times people get tunnel vision and they just think about themselves. Promote others to promote you, and they will promote you too. So, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the karma, right? You give and then you get a little back. But when you give a lot to others and promote others, it's more eyes seeing you as well.
For me, the way I do my business, pretty much the way I lead my life actually, is really lead with contribution, and compensation will follow. But it always starts with contribution, always.
That is such a great, that's like a super ninja tip that you just gave.
I've probably been quoted on that in more news stories, more magazines, whatever, on that one. And the other one that I get quoted on a lot is, we make these connections, right? And when you first meet somebody, they're just a contact. Mm-hmm. So for me, the other one really is the only difference between a contact and a contract is the R, and the R stands for relationships. So, I do a quote of the day every day, right? So I'm all about the quotes.
That's excellent.
And I want to circle back to the podcasting thing, because when you do that podcasting thing, you're creating an asset for yourself that lives for a long, long time, that you can redo. You can take quotes from it, have it transcribed, turn the podcast into a book. There's just so many ways you can leverage it, and it gives you credibility too. What are the reasons that you like podcasts to get your clients on podcasts?
Well, the number one reason I like getting it is because it's something that works for them all the time. You don't have to keep going out and redoing something. It's always there. Not only that, but because you're doing market research like I am for my clients, the reality is I am talking about them all the time. Every time somebody, stop the scroll, just watch your feed and somebody's saying something about something, I love to be able to say, oh, that was really an interesting perspective. I know somebody who just did a podcast on that. And then I put that podcast in there. I'm promoting people all the time in their podcast episodes for that, because I think that shows a couple things. Again, I think my biggest thing is, how can I promote others and it's promoting me, right? But you're doing it in a way that always works for other people. And that always monetizes for me, because I always get asked to be on more podcasts. I always get asked to speak on more stages. And the reason for that is because it's really never about me. And actually, I'm a speaker. It's never about us. It is always about them, right? Always, always is about giving value. So I think that when people know that's how you work, and they're not worried that you're going to come on and try to sell, then you're valuable to them. You're serving their audience.
I think that's such a main takeaway, is serve others and it will still serve yourself, and everybody rises to the top together versus trying to rise to the top on your own, That's
right. It's a lot less work. And, and really, honestly, it's a small world, right? I can't tell you, literally every time somebody comes to me, I very rarely for myself have to really go out and look to be on more podcasts, because I get a lot of invitations, and they're always saying, oh, I either heard you here, or somebody told me that you were a great guest, or somebody is looking through recommendations and they see that I left that recommendation on LinkedIn. They're like, wow, this person was a guest and she left them that recommendation, and then they want me to come be on their podcast. Yeah. Now, you are promoting others to promote yourself. When I sign the recommendation where I'm glowing about them, I sign it, Patty Farmer, host of Marketing, Media, Money podcast, right? So again, you're promoting somebody else while you're promoting yourself, and people want to be around people who know how to promote.
And who believe in them. It's so true. And you get clients from it. We had someone come to us the other day that was looking up Laurel Langmeyer and following her stuff, and she was on our podcast, and she was very complimentary to us while she was on there. And they're like, well, I'm just going to work with you. It was like, I just talked to him, sent him the proposal, and the next day he signed, and it was all set because of the relationship and the online credibility and the association, and giving back.
I think that is really important. I was on a podcast 2 weeks ago. It was actually the first time it had happened for me just like this. But I was on a podcast. Somebody reached out to me, said, I heard you on this podcast. I really loved what you said. Would love to jump on a call. We jumped on a call. She asked me a couple of questions. What would it be like to work with you? I told her what it would be like. She's like, great, send me an invoice. Just like that. I sent her the invoice and she paid it in 7 minutes. I have to tell you, the whole conversation was like 15 minutes. I've never had anybody like hire me like that quickly.
Right.
It was phenomenal though. But I was like, so you just never know, right? That you may say the one thing that somebody's been thinking, you know what, I really need to work on that. And then you say it, and because they believe, it's like the know, like, trust factor. So when you're on other people's stages or podcasts, it's almost like that's that credibility for you, really, that they're saying, hey, we know, like, and trust her. So you should know, like, and trust her too. Yeah. And then when you serve and not sell and lead with contribution, that just validates that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love it. Well, tell us a little bit, Patty, of where you can get found. Like, where can people go to find you, or do you have a free gift today?
I do. So they can find me by going to my website, pattyfarmer.com, right? Everything is there. All my links are there. And I do have a gift, because I don't ever like being a guest that I don't have a gift. Right. So I talked a little bit about my magazine, Marketing, Media, Money, which is kind of a great resource. And right now we are doing a free lifetime subscription to that magazine, and they can grab that by going to marketingmediamoney.com. No and, just marketingmediamoney.com.
Awesome. We'll put those links up in the show notes as well as on the YouTube description, so people can find it there.
Thank you so much.
So if you're looking for someone to find the perfect podcast for you to be a guest on, hone your message, get the right message out to those podcasters so you can be a fabulous guest and use all of those strategies that Patty just mentioned today, you need to contact her at the information that we have in the show notes. And remember, if you're looking to become a best-selling author, we guarantee that you'll be a bestseller on Amazon. Just contact us at Elite Online Publishing. We don't work with everyone, but we'd love you to go and put your submission in and see if you qualify to be one of our authors. So remember to subscribe to this podcast and share it with others, because oh my gosh, I just want to say I have 3 pages of notes from Patty's interview here, and I can go back and listen to it anytime I want, of course, even before it comes out. So you need to send the link to as many people as you can and subscribe to our podcast if you haven't done it already. And we'll see you next time. Have a great day. Patty, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a great day.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full-spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.